Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have well, I actually opened this up already. I literally just opened this up from the box about 5 minutes ago. It was packaged very poorly. In fact, I'll actually probably put the thumbnail picture as the way it arrived. You'll note that there was no packaging whatsoever. It was literally just a box, some paper towels that didn't do shit, and there was nothing else. The box, there was like this much gap. There's like this much gap above the box that was just empty, and it could just freely shake left and right. There was no tape or anything like holding the box lid tight. But fortunately, I did a quick overlook, and the engine actually looks to be in fine condition, so that's all it is. But now I want to do I guess a more proper unboxing, where I actually take a closer look at the engine itself, and see what I find. So yeah, so this is what I got. This is a Gen Models PRR Class N1s, which is a 210-2. This one's painted for 8960. This is actually the first engine, the first model Samhongsa, the manufacturer, a Korean manufacturer, I believe. Yeah, Korea, ever made. So this was our first engine, and it was imported by GEM. So there's a random price tag here, which I just noticed right now, that says $250. I paid $100 for this engine. It was buy it now. It took literally 3 weeks to ship. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to diss the seller, but he took 3 weeks to ship this engine, and also it was packaged very poorly. So honestly, I'm surprised that it arrived in good condition. It really shows how much, it's a props to brass models, honestly, because they're really hard to damage, because they are made of metal, whereas plastic ones with flimsy details, they can easily break. This brass engine is still in amazing condition, relatively speaking. So this was listed as a completely different engine, but the pictures showed this engine, so I assumed it was this. It was definitely a risky buy, especially with the way it was packaged. However, yeah, so it does say Penzi 210-2 on here, and if we open this up, and I put it back in the box the way it came. So if we lift the foam up here, you'll see that this plastic stuff isn't wrapping the engine at all, which is very suspicious. It should be wrapped around the engine, but yeah, here we go. I'm gonna just lift the camera up a little bit here. But this is all it is. It's a 210-2, as you can see, and I'll take it out for a little closer inspection. So yeah, let's do that right now. So let's take out the tender first. And the first thing you'll note is that there's this wire plug, which is really awesome. The listing said nothing about anything except just that the engine, runs and it's used. That's all it really said. It was a default eBay description template. And so yeah, it has a wire plug with 6 wires. And it's a lined west tender, as you can tell. You can tell because the coal bunker has a sloped angle, and also there was this walkway here. The lines east tenders are they're more or less straight. There's a very slight angle, but they're just a flat, the USRA kind of tender. Yeah, so this is the lines west, and I believe, yeah, so these operated in the Pittsburgh branch, so hauling coal trains, so it makes sense as a lines west tender. This is in very good condition, actually. There's a bit of a paint scrape, here, there's a little bit of a paint scrape somewhere in small areas, but yeah, here's the what is it called, the stoker, where the screw goes through for the coal. In the back here, there's obviously separate applied handrails, an uncoupling lever, and a KD coupler. You can see that it's bulging a little bit. You can clearly see there's stuff inside there, which is really awesome. And if you flip it underneath, here's what the magic is. There's a speaker grill, and if you look very closely, I don't think the light will show properly, but there's a speaker inside there. Yeah, unfortunately I can't show you because the lighting is poor here, but yeah, so there's a speaker inside there, which I'm really excited by. I will test this. I'll test this on camera, so for the first time. In a little bit, but I just want to show you there's some very basic brake rigging, as well as the famous Penzi water scoop, where it could pick up water while the engine's moving. There's also some very fine looking stirrup steps on the rear, and a brake hose. And yeah, so this is a very well made tender, honestly. The paint job, I'm not really sure about it. You could definitely tell, like, it's not the best paint job, especially from certain angles, but and the keystone's a little weird, but yeah, I mean, it works. So I've seen worse. hint, the New York Central L1 or L2A. And then here's the engine. So as I said, this was packaged very poorly. That's not my hair, by the way. That's, I hope, the original owner's hair, or maybe like a dog hair or something like that. I don't want to damage this, so let me take this out very carefully. And you'll see this, the N2A has a ginormous Belpaire firebox. It's one of their signature looks, I guess you could say. Yeah, be careful because the bell likes to really cling onto the foam. So you can see from the box here, show this back a little bit. You can see that from the box, there's quite a bit of damage here, which means that the engine clearly was shoved forward and back during shipping, which is a little suspicious. And there's a pipe here, which I didn't notice. Okay, that's cool. And just hairs. It's kind of weird. I'll have to clean this up, but yeah. Anyways, we'll put that aside. And then here is the engine. So, yeah, and it's a real beauty. So, yeah, it's a really big and heavy engine too. Again, we can see the wire plug coming out from the rear. There's just so many drivers. This screw is loose. I need to tighten that eccentric crank screw. The brake shoes seem to be all undamaged, which is actually pretty uncommon. This one seems to be a little tight. I'll have to loosen that screw. Trailing truck looks good. Pilot truck looks nice. There's a little spring that helps it center, although it's a little weak, I think. The wheels are, the center driver is blind, and there's the gearbox that goes to the motor. The motor you can see in the back here, it looks to be a CAN motor. I would assume it looks like a Mishima or whatever. CAN motor, it's a black one. It looks like it was added by the original owner because I can see some glue. You can see some glue there that's holding the motor down. So it might be owner, or like, you know, aftermarket parts. Here's a random wire that's just sticking out, so that's always interesting. But yeah, overall the detail is very solid. There's a piece of plastic there, which is interesting. I think that's to stop the gearbox from moving left and right too much. But yeah, so like it's a very solid engine. The rear looks good. As you can see, there is an interior cab. Generally speaking, for CAN or for brass engines, if you see an interior piece, a backhead detail, it means that there's a CAN motor factory installed. And if there isn't, it usually means it's open frame motor. I guess this might be an exception because this was Samhongsa's first model. But yeah, so there's some details that are kind of crude, like this looks kind of weird. But overall, I mean, it looks very beautiful. And yeah, again, you can see the paint job isn't amazing. It's a weird kind of like matte. It's actually no, that's just because it's cold. It's like 20 degrees here in Illinois. So anyways, yeah, so yeah, that's fine. It's a weirdly like glossy but also not really glossy finish. It's kind of weird. The bell is very nicely made. I do like that. And as you can see, it's just a humongous engine. I'd say this is comparable to the I1SA. I think as far as historically, they only made a few of these. But the thing is, the reason this was not mass produced was because the I1SA was just more successful. I mean, it had, I believe, a similar size boiler and everything, but the thing is, because it lacked a trailing truck, more of the weight of the firebox, instead of being distributed onto a unpowered wheel, all of it was placed onto the drivers, so it had more power as a result, more traction. And this engine just didn't have that, and you know, I1SA was just a more successful design, I guess, overall. But yeah, so they still lasted till like the 1950 somethings, but they were resorted to slow coal drags, and yeah, so similar to the J1Es. Pennsylvania Railroad also has some USRA 210-2s. They were the N2SA class, but the N1 class has that one didn't have the bell per firebox. So yeah, from the front here you can see that the front boiler seems to be sideways. It should be, you know, the headlight should be straight. The headlight also seems to be bent upwards. Again, probably a result of the poor packaging. And also the front switcher pilot is also very bent backwards, so I'll have to bend that back carefully. But overall, it's in surprisingly good condition. And let's try running it right now. Also, wait, one more thing is there should be a ladder that attaches here, and it goes down. It's a very weird looking thing. I think that's actually what this piece was from. I'll have to find a ladder or something for this engine because it is missing. That's unfortunate. I'm trying to see if there's in the box. No, it's not there. All right, yeah. So anyways, yeah, so that seems to be the major missing piece. This just needs to be reseated, and these have to be bent back. But overall, I think it's in very good condition considering what it's been through. So yeah, let's I'm gonna couple these together, attach the two pins together, and let's put it on my test track, which I have. This is my college dorm, as you know, so I don't have my layout with me, but I do have a little piece of straight track and some rollers. So let's try this out. All right, I have the engine in the track. It took actually a little bit of effort putting all the wheels on the track, but I think I got it down. I have the power cab right here. from my home. I don't have it plugged in right now, so let's plug this in. Okay, so I'm assuming it's not number 3. Okay, so we could factory reset with this, but we can also guess what the road number is. So based off of the cab, it says it's 9860. Let's see if that works anything. 9860. Ooh, I hear something. Nice. Okay. It's definitely not TCS. It's definitely not Tsunami. It sounds like there's double compressors. This might be MRC, QSI, or Digitrax. Let's see if it runs. Oh, got out right there. The track isn't very clean. It sounds like it really needs a wheel cleaning. That's what it sounds like. Okay, sounds like it definitely needs a wheel cleaning. Let's test if the lights work, actually. I don't think there's any lighting, but you never know. Let's turn on the front headlight. Oh, looks like something's lit. Yeah, it looks like there's a very dim bulb. Let's turn on and off. Looks to be a very dim 1.5 incandescent bulb. And there's no rear light, so that's okay. Let's see what whistle they have it as. This is QSI. Okay, yeah, I recognize that, whatever that sound is. I think it's the water fill, or water, entering the boiler. Or something, I don't know. This is QSI. Okay, yeah, this is a QSI decoder. That's really awesome. Wow, okay. So yeah, it definitely sounds like I need to clean the wheels. Yeah, let's see if we can get it to run. No, it's not gonna run. Okay, yeah. I'll clean the wheels and I'll be right back, but I want to see this thing run. I'm very excited that there's a QSI decoder in there, which right now these days are very rare, and they sell for quite a bit, so yeah, I'll be right back. Alright, so open up the tender, and you can see it's very bare. It's just so I was correct in assuming this is a QSI decoder. This is actually a QSI Titan decoder. I'm not really sure why they all have these extra wires, but these are the wires that are used. There's a single, really tiny capacitor. It's a 330 UF or microfarad capacitor, which is really not enough to do anything really. Usually I'd say at least 2000 UF will make any significant difference, or any minuscule difference. You know, it's recommended to do much more than that. But anyways, so yeah, this is not going to help in keeping the engine on dirty track. And then the speaker, as you can see here, has literally no housing. It's just they made a custom speaker enclosure, but it doesn't give it any, there's no space, there's no room inside for the sound to actually vibrate. And so as a result, it just sounds very, it just sounds very what do we call it? There's just no bass. It just sounds very poor as a result because there's no proper enclosure. This is just basically holding the speaker at this point. It's not even giving it a proper enclosure. So yeah, anyways, I'll just show you this. And yeah, I was correct in assuming this is a QSI decoder. And yeah, so let's put this back together. Alright, while I was cleaning stuff, I just figured I'd take the engine apart because there was this one wire that was sticking out from the side, if you guys didn't see from the previous shot, and I just wanted to tuck it back in. A few things to note, it's quite dirty in here. There's a lot of grease I need to clean off. But I don't have the materials, I don't have the tools and materials to do that right now, so I'll have to probably bring it back home and do that then. Another thing to note is there's some like green stuff on this last wheel, and I think that's because the original owner added some bullfrog snot as traction tires, and it's kind of worn off. So I'll have to see if there's any way to get it off. It's really caked on hard right there, and it's dried out, so it doesn't add any traction. Another thing is they used a Proto Power West motor, which I've never seen before, made by Japan. It looks like a really high quality motor. Another thing is that the original owners seem to add additional weight, because this is the original weight right here. It's a lead weight, and then here they seem to like have poured their own weight here, which is very strange. It's like a white metal casting, or I don't know, they kind of poured it into the shell, which is very interesting, but it adds a lot more weight to the engine, or at least some weight. One last thing to note is I do find the power pickup a little suspicious. Usually brass engines, the engine picks up power from one side and then Hendra picks up from the other side. In this case, the engine picks up from 5 wheels, actually, well, 4, because this one has a bullfrog slot all over it, but and the tender picks up only four wheels. So I think it's the tender wheels that are causing issues. The pickup on the tender isn't really great because there's only 4 wheels, and they're brass too, which is not good, because brass can tarnish, and that layer of tarnish can prevent the power from going into the brass. So that's an issue. Another thing is that usually you have because the engine picks up from one side and the tender picks up from the other, and the decoders and the tender usually just have pickups from the engine go into the tender, and the tender pickups go directly into the decoder, right? But instead, this owner, apparently they have it so it's wired so the engine pickups obviously go through the plug and then into the decoder. However, the tender pickups go through the wheels, then they go through the drawbar, then they go through the wires and then into the plug, and then finally into the decoder, which is very strange. It's kind of backwards. It's like going from the tender to the engine and back to the tender, which doesn't make any sense. It makes it less efficient. So that I'll have to fix probably when I go back home. But for now, there's not much I can do about it. But anyways, I'm going to finish cleaning up the wheels here, and I'll see you guys, and I'll test this engine and make sure it works. Runs fine. Yeah, whatever. We'll see the running capabilities of the engine. Alright, and we're back. I cleaned the drivers just a little bit, and I mostly just cleaned the tender wheels, and it sounds a lot better now, as you can tell. So, now one thing to note, the drivers do look kind of weird right now, because unfortunately, I only have 4 rollers, and I figured I'd put in the last 2, because these drivers are sprung, and that's the reason why these 2 drivers are a little higher and these 3 a little lower, because these are sprung and the springs are being compressed, so it looks a little weird, but it should be fine. Let's operate this right now. The chuff rate and the actual, the chuff sync is definitely off. I don't have much experience with QSI decoders, but I mean, as far as it sounds great. The enclosure is really not doing the speaker justice, or the decoder justice for that matter. It sounds very, I don't know, whatever you call it, but it could sound a lot better if I have a proper speaker enclosure in it. But yeah, I just want to show that it runs. And here's reverse. And then bell, and then whistle. You can also see that the speaker is sort of hitting the bottom of the tender, I think. You can hear it, it's kind of hitting, and it's making a weird sound to it. Maybe that's just speaker vibration. But anyway, so yeah, the speaker needs a lot of work. The wheels need to be cleaned definitely a little better. The grease needs to be removed here. The enclosure needs to be changed. I need to add a keep alive to this engine. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, I need to add a ladder in the front. I probably will change the headlight because this headlight's very dim and it's the incandescent bulb which can burn out. I'll definitely be rewiring so the tender the tender pickup doesn't go through the engine in the back. And but that's pretty much it. As far as this engine goes, it runs fine. It just needs some slight tune-up, and that's pretty much it. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.